Story 1. So, some backstory. During my freshman year of high school, I was sexually assaulted by a peer, and so was another girl. I kept it to myself because we had many mutual friends, and I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable or forced to choose sides. I also felt responsible and guilty, which led to a lot of psychological repercussions. I began self-harming, developed severe anxiety and depression, and eventually, it all peaked. I forced myself to confide in my English teacher, which led to the involvement of the police. During the interview, I could already sense that the detective wasn't taking me seriously. He misquoted me in the statement and used words like misunderstanding, and he went in for a kiss, despite my clear description of the struggle, how I tried to push him away, and that he had me pinned to the wall with his hand around my throat. He confessed after just 10 minutes of being interviewed by the police, but the prosecutor dropped the charges, feeling the case would never go to trial. He was a star student, highly respected by everyone. After this, he was banned from speaking at school-sanctioned events. I remained silent because I'm not one to cause conflict. Eventually, I discovered that he planned to attend the same college I was going to. I wrote him a letter, asking him to reconsider, reminding him of his earlier apology, and urging him to prove his remorse. He never replied. A few weeks later, I learned that he planned to give a speech at a baccalaureate event organized by a local interfaith community. I emailed the teacher in charge, explained what had happened, and politely asked her not to let him speak. She responded with sympathy, saying, "That's terrible, I'm so sorry, but we're still going to let him speak. Feel better." At this point, I was furious. I had been dismissed, belittled, ignored, and unheard for years, despite my efforts to seek justice. He was still incredibly popular and loved by everyone. I decided I had done all I could. I tried handling things privately, first by talking to him and then by speaking with the organizer, but both ignored me, just like the police had. So, I resolved not to stay quiet any longer. I attended the baccalaureate event, and while he was giving his speech ironically about treating others with respect, I held up a sign that read, "This person has assaulted 2 women. Is this the face of the class of 2020? Stop giving assaulters and abusers a platform to speak. Stop silencing women." By the time the event was over, everyone was talking about it, and everyone was angry with both him and the organizers for allowing him to speak. Many of the girls in attendance were also victims of sexual assault, and they were all furious that the organization knowingly let someone with such a past speak. I felt incredible. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The last thing he told me after violating me was, "Don't tell anyone." Even after years had passed, and I had spoken about it to a select few, and the police and teachers knew, he was still praised. Every time I heard someone speak of him fondly, a voice deep inside me would say, "You're letting him win." Now that everyone knows and despises him, I finally feel like I can lay this matter to rest. I can finally let go. Edit. I am so overwhelmed with all these comments and gold. 2 golds. What on earth? Thank you all so much. I'd like to make a blanket statement to all the victims of sexual assault who have messaged me and commented on this post. You are enough. You are loved. And even though the system is often rigged against us, I hear you. I am listening. You don't need to hold up a sign to get your revenge. Sometimes, taking care of yourself and moving on is enough. Trust me, I know it's easier said than done, but just know that I'm on your side. I'm in your corner. I see you. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you ever need to talk. I care about you. I'd like to address a few things. I have received many direct messages, as well as comments on this post, from survivors of sexual assault, telling me how brave I am and how I'm their hero. I appreciate that so much. You have no idea how much that warms my heart. But I have something to say to all of you who expressed that sentiment. Yes, it was scary and hard to hold up the sign. I am not saying that wasn't a brave thing to do, it was, and I'm proud of myself. However, I don't like what that implies. I don't like the suggestion that a survivor who is not yet ready to share their story and chooses to keep it private is in any way acting out of fear. My friend, you are all brave. You are brave just for waking up in the morning. You are brave for going to work. You are brave for making yourself dinner and allowing yourself to enjoy it. You have nothing to be ashamed of, that I can assure you. You are perfectly enough, and you have nothing to prove. This morning, I woke up to over 70 messages and direct messages from classmates, all overwhelmingly positive, supportive, and empathetic. 2 other victims have now come forward, bringing his count to 4. I want to make this as effective as possible, so any suggestions on how to ensure we have a solid case would be greatly appreciated. I haven't heard any statements from him yet, but I promise I'm as eager to know as you are. You'll be the first to hear about it if and when it arrives. Thank you all for your support. Story 2. Please respectfully correct me if you see any errors because English is not my first language and I want to improve. Also, this is my first post here. Before you get to the main part, I need to clarify that yes, I have a video, but I would never post it because I could get in trouble for it. Since this is a ridiculous story, it's up to you to believe it or not. Let's name everyone involved in this. John, my boyfriend, the designer. Jenny, me. I mainly did video work. Sarah, another coworker, the best photographer there. Mario, the reason I'm writing this. To say he was useless is an understatement. Donna, the director's assistant. Amy, the accountant. Years ago, I worked in a government institution where I live. It wasn't a good job. It was essentially volunteer paid work that was an excuse not to provide employees with the security a real job would offer. But I accepted because I needed the money and had just finished college. I worked in the communication department with 4 other coworkers, one of whom was my boyfriend. We're still together to this day. The youngest was a guy named Mario, who was still in high school and had gotten his girlfriend pregnant. His mother worked in another government institution, and she got him the job, which was one of the reasons the boss couldn't fire him. We were responsible for designs, photography, video production, social media posts, arranging press interviews for our bosses, and many other tasks. Mario claimed to have some knowledge of photography and design, saying that's what he was studying in school, but we later learned he rarely attended school, so he was terrible at almost everything. We tried to show him how to do his work, but he was stubborn and lazy. He never fully learned the basics of the job. He often had problems with people, though not with us initially because he acted polite, which changed later. He was disrespectful when taking pictures, late almost every day, and frequently posted on social media about the government, arguing with those who disagreed with him. Sarah and John talked to him about how working in a government institution meant he shouldn't do that, but he never changed and complained to his mother that we were against him. Mario usually worked about 2 to 4 hours a day. John and Sarah were often the only ones who saw him because they worked more hours than the rest of us. He would stay in the office for 1 or 2 hours alone, or they would send him to take pictures for the same amount of time. One day, he was tasked with taking pictures of an event practice. Everyone else was off the clock. It wasn't a big event, and he had been working there for about a year by then, so we thought he could handle it alone. The accountant had to go there and decided to take him with her and a coworker in her car. He was late again, so he couldn't go in one of the work cars. The accountant left her purse open in the space between the driver and passenger's seats. When they returned to the office, she noticed her wallet was missing. She immediately suspected Mario. They searched him in our office but found nothing. Eventually, somebody found the wallet under the vending machine. Initially, we took his side because they admitted they never found anything, and it wasn't right to search our office without anyone else present, especially since we had expensive photography equipment. However, when we learned how the wallet was found and talked to him, we knew it was him. More money and items disappeared when he was around, but nobody could prove he took them. The bosses didn't want to create a scandal, so they let it slide. Our office used to be the conference room, so it was attached to the kitchen. The director kept beverages there for visitors, and while we could use the kitchen, we were not allowed to touch those drinks. Mario wasn't supposed to enter the kitchen at all. However, sodas began to disappear, and the director's assistant complained to us. We insisted we didn't take them, but she didn't believe us. One day, John noticed that the kitchen door was broken, and it was easy to open the lock. He demonstrated with a pencil. We often found pencils with missing tips how Mario was likely getting into the kitchen when no one was around. Despite this, nothing was done, not even a conversation with Mario. One day, John and I were on our way to work, but I hadn't had breakfast, so we stopped at a store. I bought something to eat and a chocolate bar, which I put in the fridge and then forgot about. The next day, I remembered it and went to check, but it was gone, and I was upset. John and I checked the trash can. It was clean and empty, and we found small pieces of the chocolate. So we decided to use a video camera that someone had previously offered to us. It could record for long hours. I want to clarify that the decision to do what we did next wasn't just because of a chocolate bar. The chocolate was the last straw. For nearly a year, we had to put up with our bosses scolding us because of Mario. He never wanted to learn how to do his job, and things were always disappearing, including personal items. The first day, Donna left money in one of her drawers, slightly open so he could see it. We placed the camera in another building across from ours. We had large windows floor to ceiling, so you could see Donna's desk, the hallway, a lady's office, our door, and the director's office. The other building had empty offices at the time, with large curtains, so Mario couldn't see the camera. We went home that day and left the camera recording. The next day, the money was still there, likely because we only left one bill equivalent to $5, and he knew we would know if he took it. I checked the camera and saw him enter the lady's office. I don't know what he did there, and take some cookies, but he looked suspicious. Again, we couldn't do much with this, so that night John found an old cell phone that could record for 2 hours. The next day, Donna left the $5 again, but now she left $1 bills and the drawer slightly open. We placed the camera in the other building, and John disguised his old cell phone with a binder and some sticky tape. That day, Mario was alone for a little less than 2 hours and then left. John and I had a car, so we went to a nearby mall to pass the time and then returned to retrieve the cell phone. Oh my God, John watched a bit of the video before the battery died. He said he saw something strange but wasn't sure because the screen was very damaged, and we were in the car I was driving. When we got to John's house, we watched everything Mario had done in our office. We couldn't check the other camera yet because the building was closed, and we didn't have access to it until the next day. First, we saw him enter the office, watch some YouTube, everything seemed normal. Then he left and returned, putting something in his pocket, though it wasn't clear what it was. Then we saw how easily he took a pencil, opened the kitchen door, and took something like yogurt before closing the door. We could hear him watching a very popular channel in our country. But then, we heard noises. Yes, those kinds of noises. We were supposed to have blocked access to those types of videos and websites. After all, these were government offices, and the information technology team had recently checked everything. But somehow, he was watching inappropriate content on the computer I used for work. And if you're wondering if he did what you're thinking, the answer is yes. Thankfully, the cell phone didn't record his hands, but you could see his shoulder moving and him licking his finger. I know it's very unpleasant. Well, he finished and didn't even wash his hands. I was so shocked and disgusted when I saw that I wanted to cry. The next day, the first thing I did was call the information technology department to clean the computer. We didn't say why for obvious reasons. John retrieved the camera, and we could see him leaving the office, carefully checking if anyone was around. Then he went to Donna's desk, took $1, went inside the woman's office, and took something, but we couldn't see what. Then he returned to our office. We called Donna to our office, and she was shocked. Sarah watched the video as soon as she arrived. Then the director came in, and we asked him and Amy to come to our office. We showed them the video. The director was very young and trusted us, so he didn't hold back his laughter when the inappropriate part began. Amy, who was a young and delicate woman, turned around and covered her eyes, letting out a small scream. We finally had the proof needed to fire him. When he arrived at work, they didn't let him in. I don't know how the conversations went, but I know some of the words exchanged. Amy, you stole again, and we told you last time it was your last chance. Mario, raising his voice, I didn't do anything. You're always blaming me. Amy, we have proof. Mario, you don't have anything. All of you hate me. Amy, don't make me show you. Mario, well, show me. Amy called our office. John, could you bring the videos? John, the first one the video camera one or the second the cell phone one? Amy, the second one. When he heard that, he was defeated and very nervous. John took his time downloading the video onto his computer because it was on mine, and then went to the office where Amy was talking to Mario. John told me he was about to show him the video and then asked Mario, "John, Mario, do you really want to watch this video?" Mario, he couldn't even look John in the eyes. "No, I don't want to." Amy, "Play at least the first video for him." John, "I don't have that one. Let me go get it." I admit I just wanted to see Mario's face, so I went to that office to give them a USB. But he didn't look at me. Amy, to John and me, "Okay, thank you, that's all." And we left the office. We heard she said something like, "Amy, after playing the video, you always said it was us and even told your mom that we wanted to get you in trouble all the time. You even said really bad things about this place. You're fired, and we don't ever want to hear about you complaining to anybody else in the center, or we'll show these 2 videos to your mom." And he just left. Then we heard that he actually told lies to his mom, like, Mario. They hated me and told lies to make them fire me. But no one ever told his mom, not that I know of. Well, this story made me realize that someone could be recording me anywhere I go. I mean, even I did it to someone.